I'm bored. I want to record this. Let's see.
Culture, faith, and identity. They unpack how race and ideology shape their views on womanhood.
This is black liberals versus white conservative.
While challenging stereotypes and confronting tough questions about equality, responsibility, and justice. Through moments of tension and unexpected understanding, they search for the values and experiences that unite them as women.
I think they'll come to terms on.
America.
They gotta come to terms on some issues.
To the bridge.
There's no way. The unending sound of heels.
Paris, and I'm a liberal.
Hello, my name is Rhonda, and I'm a liberal.
Hi, my name is Heb, and I'm liberal as fuck.
Ooh.
Hi, my name is Sierra, and I am more moderate as fuck, but very closely aligned with the liberals on many issues.
Okay.
I'm Kennedy. I consider myself more of a progressive with some conservative leaning ideas as well.
She reminds me of Candace
I'm
Owens,
Karen,
low-key.
and I'm, I think, more of a Republican constitutionalist. I tend to lean a little bit liberal on some issues because of my past with some things, but I'm mostly conservative.
Hello, my name is Shiva Begary. I'm a Christian conservative.
I'm Lisa Cusack, and I'm a conservative.
I'm Chelsea, and I'm a conservative.
Okay.
Light.
Let's go. Right.
And the first
LITE.
prompt is, both major U.S. political parties have contributed equally to the rise in political violence.
Yeah, maybe. Both sides play the field of their groups a little bit, you know. I'll say a little bit. Definitely there's more conservatives who are absolutely... Well, actually, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, no, I can't agree. Because the only thing I had for Democrats was a Democrat... No, I don't even know what her political leaning is, but it was during BLM, and she said, hey, you guys should riot some more, or something like that. And that's like the only thing I could think of. But conservatives, every other day, are pushing this us versus them mentality thing, and it keeps this mindset of these are the enemies, these are the bad ones, you guys gotta fight them, and like, I mean, let's be real, who stormed the fucking Capitol, right? Like, that in of itself is this, because they were told to by who? By Blister.
We have a tendency to stand on what someone says with their rhetoric. So the things that we see, the things that we can say can incite things. I know that's not an excuse for any side having, you know, any level of violence, but we've both sides of the aisle have gone towards a more darker way of existing. And all we're doing is, as followers of these political parties, is just pushing that rhetoric forward. It's just us as an ecosystem, and not to have the divide be more politically based. It's socially based, and with
Yeah, I fuck with her outfit though, low key. I'm sorry, I fuck with her outfit so heavy.
that, to me, there is contributions from both sides, because it's not just, hey, someone has gotten out here and done something. It's also the rhetoric, the things that are put out there that allows those who might be less inclined to follow the law to do things. So in a particular platform, you have to be careful with your words, and if you're not, things happen, and then
I wish you gave an example.
Where we are right now is exactly how we get here. So I do believe, not while wholly on both ends, there's been contributions from both the conservative side and the liberal side as far as pushing forward an unintended agenda that could include violence.
I think I want to speak to that because I think that we on this side, you and I could be wrong, most closely align on things, but I also want to speak to that nuance of difference that a large demographic of people may feel. So I was struggling initially.
I wish they did get more hard-leaning liberal. Or I would say more hard-leaning leftist, but this is about liberals. More liberal, hard-leaning liberals, because if you have the other side, then again, one person did say she was light conservative, and the other person did say she has some conservative. I'm sorry, some liberal meaning. I get it. You know, whatever. It's balanced. It's balanced.
With this question.
Ranked
But the reason I
matchmaking.
ultimately said that both sides, both political parties, which that, let's be clear, I'm probably gonna make a lot of people mad this episode. We gotta get away from that. That's part of the problem. That is part of the problem. Even amongst us, there's so much nuance. You know what I'm saying? There's like literally each one of you have said you are 4 different types of conservatives, and that's fine, because you're 4 different people. And the same for us. You know what I mean? Tangent pause. Going back to this, I do think that both sides, I condemn political violence. I'm going to start out and say right off the top, if you celebrate someone, even if you don't like them for their murder, I think that's appalling. And I will always stand on that. And I hope I never get to that point over politics that I feel that way. And I know it has to do with like a lot of other things, like things that people said and all those things. But we,
Hold on, I gotta put on
on
my
either
smarty
side,
pants
whatever
glasses.
you believe, cannot ever get to the point, because it's dangerous for everyone, where we are applauding violence. And I know that's different than sympathizing and having sentiments for someone and agreeing with someone and pointing out that you did not agree with them when they are alive. So I'm just making that as a blanket statement. So both sides have responsibility as Americans for being like, this is the standard as we always had, as it was in the 90s when I grew up, that we're not going to do that. Historically, it has come more from the right side if you go from historical context. And I saw that from research, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, so we can get into that and I can share why I think that is and give some examples. I'll even say even the DOJ discovered now, which Trump just had removed as of September this month, 2025, that a lot of the violence comes from, he had this from his own Department of Justice, that our biggest threat is white nationalists, white supremacy. And that's just facts, and that's what it's been, even what we're experiencing.
So when people say they're Christian conservatives, that is code word for I don't know anything about politics. I am also racist, transphobic, homophobic. I'm all the obics and isms you can think of. And I'm fucking stupid. Whenever someone says they're Christian conservative, they're white supremacists and they're fucking stupid. That's just like code word that they like to use. Christian conservative. They've never read the Bible a day in their life. That's why she's sitting there like, even though if you ask her to prove it, she'll say some stupid shit like BLM, right? She'll say stupid shit like they're trying to indoctrinate kids to cut off their dicks. Like, she'll say dumb shit like that with no evidence whatsoever to counter anything that she's saying.
Right now has been someone under that criteria, and I'm not trying to blame, but the last point I'll make, it's like we even see that
to go with what she's saying
has been, there was no absolute that person was on the left side or anything like that, but yet that hate and that rhetoric from what happened with Charlie Kirk assassination, which should have never happened, there's still like this hate and this call to action, and we have people marching in the streets talking about white men fight back. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts about that.
Fun fact, he was killed by Israel. But anyway.
I want to interject. So I used to be a Democrat. I voted for Obama, but I changed parties later on. I didn't vote for him the second time when he gave money to Iran, and I'm half Scotch, Irish, English, German, and then on the other side, I'm Iranian, so I was born in Iran. When he gave money to that radical regime, I said, this man is evil. Why would you give that government that spreads terrorism around the world that?
Do you see what I'm saying? They don't know shit. They don't know shit. So wait, you're a conservative, meaning you voted for Trump. You undoubtedly voted for Trump all the times he's probably ran. Who is Trump giving his money to and working as a lapdog for again? Could it be the guy who was literally genociding an entire people off the fucking planet? Also, who is she talking about? Who did he donate money to? The president of Iran? I don't know what does she mean? Who was it? Who was the president at the time? I don't know. I was gonna say Gaddafi, but I don't know, and I don't think it was him.
Money that's ours. So that was the first eye-opening experience. Then when Trump was saying things that are basic, like securing our borders, they called us racist. They called us all these names and dehumanized
Because you literally lied. Because he lied. He lied to you. He said they're doing crime. He said they're doing X, Y, Z. He says they're raping children, eating dogs, doing all this shit. None of that was proven true. 99.8% of drug trafficking that comes in from Mexico comes in from United States tourists. So it's American citizens supplying American citizens with drugs, not someone crossing a border. And you don't want to get into the whole essay of children issue, because they ain't going to look like anybody else but you. You don't want to get into that issue, right? There's a million things wrong with that. Yeah, no, it's not remotely true. Also, you said they took jobs and shit. No, they grossed an estimate of what was it, $96.8 billion a year in taxes that they do pay because they have ITN numbers and shit. Yeah, didn't know that, did you?
Humanized us. This is what they do in tyrannical countries, is they make us less human by saying you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're this.
No, they don't.
I will tell you, when I voted for Obama, none of my...
Name the country. What is she talking about? Where does this happen? Where do they dehumanize you by saying you're the racist? Because for someone to call you racist, I'm sorry, you must have been the one dehumanizing somebody. If somebody is like, you're racist, you're bigoted, you're this, you're that, you must have been the one dehumanizing somebody, not the other way around.
Conservative friends ever attacked me. When I became...
Okay, the fuck?
A conservative and said, you know what, I'll tell you, I think Trump is going to win, but so many people don't want to mention the fact that they're voting for him because they don't want to be called these names. They don't want their business.
Her whole thing is they made fun of me, my feelings are hurt, so therefore you guys are worse. That's it. It's because someone called her a bad name that is actually correct. By calling you a racist, a homophobic, a transphobic, whatever the fuck. They're not wrong. You are all those things.
Canceled, which mine was, and Rosie O'Donnell was one of those people that canceled my business. I've had to live this. I've had to live the attacks. Perez Hilton doxed my personal information. I got threats to my life.
I wonder what she said. What did you didn't just say I voted for Trump and then all this happened. Bullshit. What did you actually say? Who is this woman and what did she actually say?
Threats that people were going to rape my child. Never.
I hate when they bullshit and lie. They just bullshit and lie. Who the fuck would even use that as a threat? Like, what? I'm gonna rape your child? What the fuck? That doesn't even sound like a realistic thing of... I don't even think a crazy person would have said that. That's just so over the top and just unnecessary. Because you said you voted for Trump? Fuck out of here. No, you said some wild shit. I'm not saying if that's true, if they said that that's justified because you said wild shit, no. But I will say, if you said wild shit and people didn't fuck with you for it, you gotta eat that one.
Have I experienced, and fake news too. They said I punched a cancer survivor. No. An Antifa member clocked me with her shoulder and I pushed her back and they said that I punched a cancer survivor. So that's called fake news. Then they said
Who is this woman? I don't understand what... Is this like a celebrity or something that I don't know about? Who is she? Is she a like, what is this?
I was terrorizing children because I wanted to get the mask off my child's face. She was getting a rash. It's not healthy. God wants us to breathe freely. And it does not hold.
It's COVID. It's literally a safety precaution. So your child doesn't die from contracting COVID. Which children and elderly people and people with respiratory issues are the most likely to die from.
The virus. It's 0.3 microns. So, I'm so tired of the fake news twisting things because if you look at a lot of these people, they are mentally ill, and we're not looking at why these people are mentally ill. First off,
no, you're not looking at why do these people not like me. Could it be that I'm just spreading bullshit lies and peddling them off as truth? and not even remotely cross-examining, I'm not even nowhere near, you know what I mean? Like, Google searching any of this. I just take it as fact because Charlie Kirk or some other fucking idiot told me.
The far left are telling our children that they're a mistake by saying, oh, you're born in the wrong body. That's evil. God created...
No. Also, no one has ever used, even if you want to use the most unaware person when it comes to gender affirming care, no one who is even remotely left-leaning would say you were born a mistake to a child. In fact, they would say it was a mistake that you were labeled XYZ when clearly you are not XYZ, right? We're saying they made a mistake on you, not you made the mistake. Or that you are the mistake, right? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't even, like, work in... That literally doesn't work, because for me to say somebody is a mistake, that means that I am disappointed and I don't like what's happening with that child. But if you're saying that they're a mistake so that they can, and then giving the child gender affirming care, does that not mean that I don't view them as the bad thing? If I'm trying to help them, you get what I'm saying? Like, because when you say mistake, that has a different meaning.
Adam and Eve, okay? There's two sexes. The word gender was coined by a pervert pedophile named John Money. And
I don't know how true that is. But even if that's true, that doesn't mean anything whatsoever. Like, that's such a non-point. That's such a terrible point. That is a stupid point. The fuck? Okay. Do you know who created race? Do you know who created the term race and racial identities? Like, what the fuck? It was just some racist Spaniard. You think we give a fuck who made the name or concept of a thing? What? That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean if you know, oh man, you're following that, well, turns out you're this, right? Because if you want to call yourself white, then that means you're aligned with that racist Spaniard fuck who used it as an excuse to literally enslave Africans. In the 1600s, or I think it was 1600. It's like 1649, I think, or something like that. You can look it up.
John Money had this study with these Reimer twins, and he did some really pedophilic stuff with these kids, these two boys, having them on top doing sexual positions. Totally screwed their head up. Finally, this boy, it just was a debacle. This boy, the mother said, you know what, you were born a boy, and she should have known when her...
I just want to let everyone know the question is, have both political parties helped in creating a rise in violence and yada yada yada. I don't know what the fuck this dumbass is talking about. She just went on a fucking weird ass German scientist fucking cross-sex human centipede shit. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Son ripped off a dress when she put a dress on him to not do this anymore. But he lied about that study, and they did thousands of reassignment surgeries because of that lie. And they say that hate speech is truth speech. So when they use the word hate speech, I don't even like that rhetoric because
first of all, she disproved her own point, because if the consensus is that gender is chosen by the person, not by society, yada, yada, yada. That experiment literally proved that. That experiment proves that. This is what people say. This is what the person sees themselves as, right? So if you see yourself as a man and as a boy, and you are, say, female, guess what? You are a man and also... Or if you're young, you're a boy. Because these two things are separate from each other. If anything, you just proved that through this experiment thing.
Hatefulness is when you're telling people to die. I showed you one of my text messages from what I get every other day from the left. This is an attack on me because I'm a Christian conservative and I love this country. I don't teach...
No. You just said people are fucking You just said people have a mental illness who disagree with you. You're not even explaining the mental illness. You are misconstruing studies. You are looking at stupid, fucking awful, old, archaic experimentations that happened, I don't even fucking know, 100 years ago, and you're using that to form your fucking bigoted opinion on how people move today. This is not nearly the same fucking thing. This isn't even remotely close to the same thing. What are we talking about? This is stupid.
Kids to hate themselves, hate the flag, and hate the country. That is the indoctrination centers that are going
Yes, why would
on in Democrat-run states. So I just believe.
Yeah, I can't do these videos. These videos for me would be hours long. Like,
that the hate is coming from the left. Look at your shirt right there.
Oh yeah, I fucking hate Trump, and I will happily say that.
But see,
Pretty girls.
but at least you admit it. At least I would never have.
People have admitted that. I don't know why. That's not a hard thing to admit. Yeah, I fucking hate Trump. I hope you die. That's not hard. It's not hard to say. Hey, Trump, I hope you fucking die. That's not hard to say.
The hateful thing for any of you. You know why? Because you were made in the image of God. And I look at every person as a person that has the ability to live eternity with Jesus, Yeshua. And I love you all. I even love my enemies. I actually prayed for these people like Perez Hilton. I prayed for Rosie O'Donnell after they attacked me.
I do want to just make this comment because I think I didn't hear the word equally. There is, at no point is there an equality in terms of what you see that's put out there. And you mentioned fake news. We are supposed to be a well-informed electorate. There's a reason why there is a electoral college, but we have news at our fingertips. What we're doing is we're taking that part away and we're going on the headlines. We're going on whatever source that we're getting versus just ourselves doing maybe some research to understand what's maybe the precipice of this. So there is, I do believe, some inequality because when you look at conservatism versus liberalism, it's not that conservatives don't want change. I think it's a more of a slow progress. It's like we're trying to hold tradition to certain values, and I understand that. And then you have, I don't want to say liberals, I think it's more progressives because we are changing. Our technology changes us every single day. We get a new phone, every third day. So with that technology changing, everything else in our lives is advancing. We now have to take into consideration how these things affect us as an ecosystem. So the push out of information and what you use with it, that's the only tool that we truly have. How do we use it? Are we being, made into political soldiers by virtue of a small headline where we've not gone in to do any level of research about it? And that's what I'm fearful of.
It's partisan.
That's right. I see a lot of people do that where there's the very little research that goes into their political party or what they believe in, and then, you know what I mean? You just so happen to, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and then you get into spaces, and then you start podcasts, you start talking, you start giving opinions and shit, and you don't know what you're saying. I don't know what I'm saying all the time. That's true. I ain't gonna sit here and cap.
Blaming loop, because whatever beliefs you guys have, whatever beliefs we have, there is something that can back that up to make us believe that. I just want to say I don't absolve the left, and that's part of the reason I said I'm more moderate, because I do believe it got more hateful. I led a very large amount of protests after George Floyd, demonstrating in peace with a lot of different people, and Antifa folks came out there, and it was crazy. But I had to acknowledge that because Antifa doesn't mean liberal. Antifa also stands for anti-fascism. So that's the thing. This is all very nuanced. By definition, we should all, if we have American values, be anti-fascism. You know what I'm saying?
But they're not.
We should, right. Well, I don't represent them. I'm actually pointing out what you said to validate and not absolve.
Yeah. I need a leftist here. I need a leftist. You know what I mean? I think she definitely looks like the most leftist person here. I think they sold by not having a leftist. Deadass. Because they're misrepresenting the left a lot here. You know what I mean? Because when you say Antifa showed up, what does that mean? Antifa is not an organization. Antifa is not a group. How do you know Antifa showed up You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean Antifa showed up? That's not a thing. They don't got a flag. They don't got a banner that says we are Antifa. We're here. You know, you have people who rioted and looted because they saw an open opportunity. Sure. But 99% of what was going on were peaceful protests. 100%. The only time it wasn't was when conservatives were being conservatives. Like, you seen a guy rush through a street and just ram people over that were peacefully protesting during BLM. Like, we've seen shit like this. We've seen crazy people like that, you know?
But there is a lot, and that's why I started out, whether people like it or not, talking about, like, it can be vile.
These people destroyed my city. Beverly Hills was destroyed by these people. That's violence.
Well, Tulsa got bombed. So like that's so historically Tulsa got bombed. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm coming from as a history teacher. I'm coming from historical context, but that's why I'm also validating what you're saying about the hateful rhetoric. But when we go to acts and things like that, or the DOJ from the Trump administration report that was removed, that's what I'm referring to, because I don't have the dog in the fight anymore as far as being right. I want to move forward, and we cannot move forward if we don't understand the history.
I just, to speak to what you said a little bit, and this, I know this is a little bit more of a touchy subject, and obviously we're in the heat right now of Charlie. I go to Charlie's church. My pastor was Rob McCoy, who's Charlie's pastor. So our church right now, we're mourning, we're grieving. I was just with Charlie a month ago. So to speak to
that is the grossest shit I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. What the fuck is a church for? Then why are we naming some random ass nigga's name when we're talking about a church? I'm sorry, are you not religious? Do you not believe in God? And you got the nerve to put Charlie's church with Charlie's pastor? Not the pastor who was a pastor when Charlie went to the church. The church, not Charlie's church. What type of weird idol bullshit is that? I'm not even religious, and I'm disgusted by whatever the fuck you just said. Charlie's church? Are you serious? What the fuck are they talking about, dog? Charlie's church. What?
That the response that
What the
I've seen
fuck, Charlie? What are you talking about?
Has been prayer. It's been vigils.
It's not. I literally seen you sent bomb threats to HBCUs. What the fuck is this dumbass talking about? You see how they just rewrite history? Like, am I tripping? Here's what happened after Charlie Kirk. You immediately blamed black people, which meant bomb threats to HBCUs. You then turned to, oh no, it was the left. It was someone on the left side. Then evidence came out didn't support that, because he said, oh, he came from a conservative ass family. Okay, well that doesn't work. Then you switched it to furries and trans people, because someone that this guy knew, or his girlfriend, or whatever, maybe even boyfriend, I don't know. I don't know if that person was confirmed to be even trans. I think they were just femme presenting. And then they said, oh, well, it was the trans that did this. They corrupted the boy's mind, right? It's all stupid bullshit. He was killed by fucking Israel. They put a bomb in his dumbass mic and it misfired and blew a hole in his neck when it was supposed to blow out his chest. Okay, they've done this in Hezbollah with fucking walkie-talkies and pagers. Keep up.
We had a 600% increase in church last weekend, and I've heard the same across the board. My question for you, because you brought up George Floyd.
Also, there was a black man who was found, I think he was found hanging, or he was found just dead in the forest with his skull caved in, because he was defending his sister to white supremacists, or against white supremacists, on the issue of Charlie Kirk. That's what happened. And it was a black man found in the fucking from his college in the camp in the forest or some shit, hung and or with his head bashed in, I don't remember. We're seeing rampant. There's a video of a black man getting jumped by a bunch of white people. I wouldn't say this is related, but it could be. I don't know. Could be. But they almost threw a black 13-year-old boy in a fucking wood chipper at a party. Real shit. That's a real thing. That is a real thing that happened, by the way. Yeah, these people are not human. Sorry, I said people. These things are not human. Yeah. That's complete and utter bullshit. No, it was not peaceful. You wanted blood. You wanted blood. And you want to know how we know you're full of shit is because when the fucking senator or someone within the government was like killed her and her husband, y'all were celebrating. Trump even celebrated. Even when that celebrity guy was killed by his son, y'all celebrated, and even Trump celebrated.
Is seeing the response after George Floyd was killed, which was wrong. It was wrong what happened to him. And I spoke about what happened to him, so it wasn't like I was this silent white conservative. But the response and what took place afterwards, can you speak?
Is what she said. Well, he was already on drugs. Look, he held a gun to this pregnant woman's stomach.
Speak to that, or I want to open it.
Also, people who don't understand that, the whole George Floyd thing, to those of you who get it, then I don't have to explain this, but to those who don't understand, this is not just about George Floyd. George Floyd is a symbol. It's not about the man himself. Couldn't give a fuck about what he did or anything. He wasn't some fucking amazing creation to the world, right? He's just a drug addict at the end of the day, right? Should he have died? No. But he is a symbol, and he is a, what is the word? He's an example, or the, I can't think of the word. But for all of black people who have died to police for no fucking reason. I mean, we're talking about Michaela Bryant, Tamir Rice. We're talking about, what's his name? Elijah. Oh man, I can't think of his last name, but he's the autistic boy who they shot because he had headphones in and he didn't hear them, and they put him in a coma, and he unfortunately passed away. There was one actually not too long ago where he didn't die, but boy, they beat him the fuck up for no reason. For no reason. And it was filmed. He was filming it. It was that. It was, what else? Oh, Sonia, I was about to say Sonia Blade. Oh my God. Sonia Massey. We can go on. The list goes on. The list can go fucking on forever. But yes, that he is basically the center for all those unlawful and wrongful deaths. It's not just about George Floyd. It's not about deifying George Floyd. Fucking dumbass white people don't understand that part. It's the same thing with this digital circus bullshit going on. It's not about you laughed at the word nigga. It's that you have now emboldened a community, your racist part of your community, which they are in every community, to then be even further racist and accost black fans in the digital circus, to the point where black fans are now not wanting to be in these. They don't want to show up for the events because they're afraid they're going to be accosted for no reason, right? And you didn't make black fans feel welcomed or comfortable within these spaces at all. Glitch has done a better job at it than Gooseworks or any of these fucking people, right? That's why. You don't understand the situation. You don't understand how any of this works. You're going off of what you can understand, and what you can understand is not even half of what we understand. And that's the problem. See, when I see a police car come by, I get nervous. They already stopped my ass twice for nothing. I was walking. I'm not driving. I was walking. I got stopped twice. I was about to get brought in on some bullshit one time when I was going to work because I had a hoodie on. Yeah, that's the level of that's where we're at. That's where we've always been at, though. You know, And I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't realize how prevalent of an issue that really was, even after that happened. And then not too long ago, like a couple months ago, I was stopped by police. And they're asking, they didn't necessarily stop me, but it was weird that they're asking me. I was like at the bus stop and they're like, why are you standing out here? And I'm like, I'm at the bus stop. He was like, all right, what bus is coming? I'm like, the 15. I've messed up and said 60 at first, but then I switched it to 15 because you're nervous. You're nervous. You don't know what the fuck these fucking cretins are going to do. You don't know what the fuck these things are going to do. Right? Like, I don't know how y'all act. I don't know how y'all move. I don't fuck with that shit. So, I was nervous, you know? But they moved on, you know? God willing, nothing happened to me. I don't even believe in God.
Speak to what, you know, we can all see with our eyes, right? So we can all.
If you're like, why are you pausing so much on the conservative part? Is because conservatives are fucking dumb, and a lot of things they say are half truths or just blatant lies.
Acknowledge that there is a very different response happening right now in the wake of what's happened with Charlie, if we wanted to call it like a, you know, crime, or so to speak, and versus with George,
well, according to Erica Kirk, it's all according to plan.
Response that we see with Charlie versus what happened with all the BLM and after George Floyd was killed and whatnot, seeing that, and maybe you can educate me on that, is BLM grouped in with liberals, would you say, or was like, how does that?
Is a movement. There's an organization and there's a movement. So the idea that Black Lives Matter is that if we are going, and I really want to let other folks speak, but I just want to answer you very briefly.
No, it's just, you brought it up.
Because I'll let them actually answer your first question. I think that's fair about George Floyd and the difference. And then if I feel like there's something and they say there's enough time, I'll chime in. Thank you for, you know, at the end of the day, George Floyd wasn't saying things that are historically inaccurate and things that could be construed as hateful rhetoric. Now, you know, that's just.
We're talking about the response.
So that's
like
why.
but
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, and I know that you guys don't have our lived experience, and we don't have lived experience people watching, and we don't have your lived experience. So thank you for the question and for context. I'm not the absolute on anything Black, but I'm telling you, or liberal or left, but I'm telling you, by and large, as someone who is out there, it's like the conflating of someone who was a victim of this crime, and Charlie was absolutely a victim. I don't care what anybody says. Like, he was absolutely a victim. That should have never happened. And you have my condolences, you and your church, because that's my humanity. You know what I mean? And that's like, I will never unsee what happened to him, right? Just like I will never unsee what happened to George Floyd. I've been deeply disturbed since I've seen that.
That shit was funny. Sorry, the way he jumped up was kind of funny.
Is, and I want other people to speak on this. First of all, George Floyd was not a public figure until he was murdered.
Sure.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So when I go out there and I speak, I'm accountable for the things I'm saying, how I'm saying, and if they're historically inaccurate. So people were upset and people were offended. And I feel like they felt
I could not care less.
Charlie Kirk was a public political figure who made a lot of really harmful remarks. I think that my biggest frustration.
Now, why did she do that? Oh, Lord.
George Floyd was an innocent man, and Charlie Kirk was a public political figure who made a lot of really harmful remarks. I think that my biggest frustration in the way people have responded to Charlie Kirk is there's so much policing.
This is how you know who's dumb. This is how you know who's stupid in the group. It's dumbasses like that. Like that reaction she just gave to something that wasn't even wrong, or like that's not factually incorrect or anything. Or like, or I don't know what she was trying to elicit with that. If she's trying to say, who cares? Or if she's trying to say, well, we've all done, you know, like whatever the fuck. The reason why that's a fucking dumbass is because look at the people around her. No one else is doing that. They didn't even look her way. Because they're fucking stupid. She's like, you don't know what we're talking about. You're just here to respond. You're just here to tell people how they should and shouldn't fucking react. You're fucking dumb.
Of the way the left has responded to it, if we're not falling to our knees being like, this is a terrible thing and Charlie was an innocent man, and essentially ignoring his entire past, definitely don't condemn political violence, but I can also sit here and say he said a lot of terrible things, and I think that that's...
What terrible things? I want to hear...
Oh, let's go. All right, so he said, I'm not going to fucking quote it word for word, but he said something along the lines of, if he sees a black woman pilot, then he's going to fear for his safety. He's going to fear for, like, if she can do the job. He downplays women, especially black women and people of color, all the time when they do have a job. He completely discredits them by saying they're DEI hires, which, by the way, DEI hiring does not work like that at all. It worked like that at the beginning as it was the quota thing. That was like the first fucking year or something since it was instituted, but since then it's always been, and it's always been from the very start, been based on quality. It's been on someone who meets the criteria for what you need to have the job. It's never been just about numbers, but it certainly is not that anywhere near this time now, right? So it's a dumb thing to say. He said black people were better off in the 1940s, which is on every metric known to mankind untrue. On every metric you can think of, that was not true. That doesn't even sound like it would be true. How the fuck during Jim Crow era did you think that black people were better off financially or whatever, economically, when they were bombing, when Tulsa, Oklahoma took place? You think that black people were doing better at that time is fucking stupid to say. Very dumb. He said he pushed lies about, he pushed many harmful lies about black people. You know, he used the fucking dumbass 1350 statistic, which is, the 1350 statistic exists, but it is not at all what you think it is. It is simply just arrest, and when you over police a community, then you're going to lead to higher arrest rates. And so yes, it's going to be inflated. Also, there's per capita statistics, and you know, just terrible shit. There's more shit he said that was just dumb, but I would be here all day. He also said that he would like to see a public execution live and that children should watch. So I mean, got what he wanted on that one, I guess.
What terrible
black
things?
women don't have the mental capacity.
No, that's not. He never said that. See, this is the problem with fake news. They twist his words.
You have to watch. Have you watched the whole clip?
Yes.
I want to also point out the fact that you were saying that you received a lot of really violent remarks about your daughter, about yourself, and I don't condemn any of that. And I think it's important to hone in on that specifically, on interpersonal political violence, because I think that's what most of us can relate to and understand.
I want Ms. Rhonda to
ultimately sows the seeds for something like Charlie Kirk to happen. So I think that that's like a relevant piece. So I absolutely condemn all of that. But when you're saying that, oh my God, I had all of these people get so mad at me about the fact that I voted for Trump, why is there not a reflection on why that was the response? Like, instead of looking at her t-shirt and being upset about that, like, why is she saying that pretty girls don't like Trump?
But see,
like, why don't we have that?
I already know, because I've talked to people on the left. When I had a rally, I let them speak.
You haven't. What you mean to say is, before they could bring up an interesting point, you completely steamrolled and fucking lollygagged on the fucking stadium about random statistics and things that don't even make sense. That's what you did. That's exactly what you did. Because you want to know how we know? Because I don't even know who you are, but I know for a fact you learned everything you know from Charlie Kirk and Peterson and whoever the fuck else the other right conservative talking head is. That's why we know for a fact you don't do an ounce of research on anything you talk about. You do and if you do, it is 1,000,000% confirmation bias. That's why she brought up the fucking German scientist or whatever the fuck on the gender thing. Had no play in what we do today, has no bearing on psychology, has no bearing on anything today, on modern day science, has no bearing on any of that. I don't know. I don't even think she's quoting the right thing, because I think what she's quoting is, which that could be real, but I think she's quoting another one, if it's not that, was the scientist who, the psychologist who raised a little boy to be a little girl because he had a bad circumcision, which they just said, okay, fuck it, we'll just tell him it's something else. And the boy would later go on to ixnay himself because he wasn't living his truth, because he wasn't a girl. He just wasn't a girl. No matter how much they tried to make him live like a girl, he didn't want it. So they use this as a stupid excuse to, they use this as a dumb excuse to discount gender affirming care and to tell trans people that they're not what they are, what they say they are, which is dumb because that literally, funnily enough, that literally proves the point of what trans people are saying, and which you would say, why do they exonate themselves all the time? That's why. Because you're making them live a life that's not theirs. You fucking idiot. You disproved your own fucking ideology by trying to counter trans people. You disproved your own shit, you dumb fuck. I hate people that use that dumbass experiment because you're just proving my point. If the boy was never trans, which he wasn't, even though you tried to force it on him and he ixnayed himself, what comparison does that have? You have to then go, if you used your brain for a second, you would go, well, where do I see this also happening? Oh, this also happens when I try to tell a transgender child that they're not transgender and force them into their the gender that I want them to be. Why do they ixnay? Why do they ixnay themselves? That would probably be why.
I let them speak and have a voice.
Very dumb.
I wasn't trying to silence them. I'm being silenced. I got kicked off
You're
of
not.
Facebook twice. I got
Probably because you spread misinformation and hate speech. Like, you're fucking dumb. This is what I mean. These people are fucking stupid. They lack so much self-awareness. It's wild.
kicked off of TikTok. They don't.
Because you spread misinformation and hate speech. Yes.
I have to keep making new accounts. That's censorship. That's not the American way.
It's because, first of all, that's not how free speech works. Free speech doesn't work on a fucking social media platform. You don't have the same constitutional right as free speech because you're under somebody else's domain. You're in somebody else's house. It's like saying, well, I can take my shoes off and shit on the floor in my house. Why can't I do it in yours? It's like, because that's not how I run my house. Go to the bathroom, you disgusting fuck. But also still take your shoes off.
American way is freedom of speech. And that's what happens in tyrannical governments.
I'd like to jump in. First of all, I really appreciate.
Also, if that's the case, then I'm just ahead. But if that's the case, then Trump is the tyrannical government, which obviously he is. But also, you are literally proving the point against yourself. Because Trump tried to get Jimmy Kimmel kicked off of his show with the FCC. Director of FCC, who was appointed by Trump, tried to get him kicked off the fucking show for making a joke. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Is that not exactly the thing you are now bitching about right now happening to you?
Appreciate that all of you.
Where there's an actual government involved?
Condemn political violence, and I agree with you. I think that's very important. The reason I would argue that it more stems from the left is a couple of things. First of all, to address that DOJ statistic that you were talking about, the way the Biden administration came up with that is they had the FBI start separate offices in every state and every city, and they used January 6th to basically they went after every single person and put that as a mark of white supremacist violence, even if the person walked into the Capitol. And actually, I have a friend who is black, conservative.
Which it is. You can be black and be a white supremacist. In case you're going there, you can do that, yes. I don't know what they're talking about. I skipped it, but I imagine they're saying that they regarded it as a hate speech or something like that. Or it went under the banner of hate speech or hate crime under white supremacy, which it just was. You went there to do that for Trump. You were there under the orders of Donald Trump, and he also told you to hang Mike Pence or whatever. So you went there to do some wild shit. So yes, yeah, and there's what I say. It's white supremacy, not all the way. I think at the end of the day, you are all white supremacists because most of the things you fight for are white supremacy bullshit. And the other half is just dumb, bigoted shit, which falls back into white supremacy, but go off.
Siaka.
Yeah, we all know
We all
Siaka.
know. And so that's how they came up with that statistic, and that's why it was taken away, because it was very flawed. There's been numerous assassination attempts. I mean, there was
that political violence, though, January 6th?
There was some political violence. So
4 people died, and they were patriots. No cop died from people beating up. That's a lie. The media lied.
I think that's the most unpatriotic you could do, but it is very historically American.
I mean, I would probably put it in the category.
Got him. But yeah, what is she saying? It's unpatriotic. She said it's patriotic to fight the U.S. government. That's patriotic. To overthrow an election. That's patriotic. To get mad because your said overthrowing of the election failed, so then you told a bunch of random idiots to go storm the Capitol, and they did. That's patriotic. Weird how they got this heated over this, but they still have yet to do anything remotely close to any of this when it came to raping children. When I know for a fact, because I was in the same circles, I know for a fact that this absolutely, so many of those people were QAnon, because that was a big talking thing at the time. Where y'all at now? Q, what's going on, bro? Because my whole thing was save the children, and when y'all talked about how to save children, I was there for you. I was there. I was part of QAnon, I guess, if you want to say. I was all in the conspiracies. But then when they came to light, like right now, people are talking about it. Like the normies are talking about it now. Y'all aren't ready to fight the government now. That's weird to me. That's weird. I don't understand that part.
Category of of the BLM situations where there was the peaceful protests and then there was the rioting. And I know I lived right there where we could see the flames from my door and the tanks rolled into the city. So I know firsthand that there was definitely violence when the sun came down.
They did not threaten to pin their own vice president.
And then the January 6th was a peaceful protest that got.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. You're literally there on orders to hang Mike Pence.
Out of
what are we saying?
At one point, but most of the people that harassed had the door open for them by the police and walked peacefully in.
Because the police are part of them.
And I think there's also been other attacks. There was the assassination attempt on Steve Scalise. There was a couple of assassination attempts on Trump. There was an assassination attempt on Justice Kavanaugh.
What? There are Democrats who have died. There are Democrats who have died. That woman and her husband have died. Nancy Pelosi. Oh no, not Nancy Pelosi. What's her name? What's that lady's name? She was I can't remember. But I think it was 2, actually. Was it 2 Democratic like wife and husband situations where they died? Or attacked or threatened or whatever, like I'm pretty sure.
And
Melissa Hortman definitely just
and as
got
much
killed.
as
Yeah,
I
Melissa
was
Hortman.
deeply disturbed by the videos of George Floyd, I cried when I saw it. The fact of the matter is, he was a criminal. He had stuck his gun at a
That's not why they stopped him. They stopped him for a counterfeit 20.
pregnant woman's belly. He was
That's not why they
taken in for a
stopped him,
crime.
though.
He was on drugs. That was part of the problem. That's not excusing anything that was excessive. But whereas basically you guys are saying that because Charlie Kirk said things you don't agree with, it's more justifiable to shoot him execution style.
No, literally no one said that. Literally everyone prefaced it by saying that's not why he. Now, if you ask me, I don't give a fuck. I laughed when he died. I'ma laugh every time. I'ma laugh. If I watch the video right the fuck now, I'ma start laughing. Okay? I don't care. I don't think we should start killing people we disagree with. But I don't give a fuck that Charlie Kirk is dead at the same time.
You started out your injection. You started out your statement with saying that we both deem it. We all, as a group in totality.
And that's what I think you're saying. You understand the okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I wouldn't want to.
We're pushing back on things that are being inaccurately represented. So you cannot say that you see. The thing about it is, we said out the gate, we do not condone that. Much to the detriment and pushback of a lot of our own communities. But what we're not sitting up here doing, respectfully, which is what I'm hearing from you. I don't want to speak for you because I feel like that's impolite. So you could tell me if I have it wrong. But it seems as though that you're inferring that the January 6th was just a protest that got out of hand, or equating it to, and let's be also clear, Black people, liberals, are not the only ones that rioted after George Floyd.
I totally
the
know
entire
that.
planet.
Well,
the entire planet. Think
Antifa
about
did
that.
a lot of
To
rioting,
come
too.
back to the prompt, when you talk about one side having more political violence, especially historically, the entire planet got tired of the white supremacy-led political violence that happens in this country and the violence that happens to people. It is what it is. Why do you think they rioted after this? And the thing is, it says, I can sit up here and say, I did not agree. I've been on some of the same shows Charlie Kirk was on, and I am disgusted what happened to him. I am deeply bothered on a spiritual level. Like, I am deeply bothered by that because I don't need someone to die to see them as a human. This is why the rest of the people that are not like me, but are like me to your guys' eyes, feel the way they do. Because they are not there. You are right now in real time dehumanizing George Floyd. That should have never happened to him. That is a move that most police departments don't even allow because it's lethal. I don't care what he did. Nothing warranted that. And nothing Charlie Kirk said warranted him being shot in the neck.
I agree with that 100%.
And that is the problem. And that is why a lot of people who have not done the work on themselves like I have feel the way they do.
I completely agree with what you said there, and I totally agree with that. And I, like I said, I definitely appreciate it, and I can tell that you have a really good heart. And I, again, in no way mean to dehumanize anybody or say that anybody agreed. I was responding to what she had said.
Derek Chauvin is a criminal in that situation, not George Floyd.
And Derek Chauvin was a criminal in that situation, so that I also agree with. I was responding to what she said. It seemed that she was saying, I understand people not being upset by the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was actually videos on TikToks where they were like dancing and celebrating, and I think that for that to be even understandable is a problem, and it's a problem that the left refers to the right constantly as fascists and Nazis and racists, and that is dehumanizing.
It's not dehumanizing if it fits, if the shoe fits. If you want to say we're assholes for dancing because Charlie Kirk died, sure, you're right. Okay, we're assholes. You're still a racist. Those terms still apply to you. Those terms don't go away. These are not like harmful insults these aren't like little insults on the playground like idiot or dum-dum. No, we're saying you are aligned with a political ideology that benefits solely you and really only white men, and really doesn't really benefit you, but you align with them because you seek comfort in this way of living. You grew up in this, right? That's what we're saying. When I call you a racist, I'm not saying you're racist because I just want to hurt your feelings, right? I'm calling you a racist because you believe in racist fucking people, right? You're sitting here talking about fucking Trump. You're sitting here talking about Charlie Kirk when you know for a fact that he literally is a racist piece of shit. End of the fucking story. You want to say what you want about George Floyd? Cool, he was on drugs. Cool, he held a gun to a pregnant woman. Cool, he did all this shit. No one gives a fuck because no one celebrates George Floyd because of George Floyd. Literally not a single person on planet Earth. That is you having a misunderstanding of what his death meant and what this movement means. That is you, not us, having the problem.
And I think there is that level of dehumanization.
And I think that is problematic. But I also think that when people see racist things happening,
how do we know that was about race, though? How do we know that
what was about race?
That the whole George Floyd was a race thing.
I'm not referring to that.
Because did you know that there was a whole clip? Can I finish what I'm saying?
In general, I said racist things.
Okay, let me finish real quick.
Every time I referred to that, I've said specifically that example.
Okay, let me finish this. Well, this is the problem.
You don't have to finish it because you're not talking about the same fucking thing. What are you finishing?
With the media, they take sound bites and they don't show you the whole thing.
You just did that. You literally just did that. You took everything that she said and you whittled it down to, oh, well, you think George Floyd was a racial thing? And she said, I'm not saying that. You just did this. Now, unless you're going to say, now, please, maybe you have a brain. Maybe you're going to flip it and say, see, and that's what I was just trying to do to you. It doesn't feel good, which still wouldn't make sense and still not work, but at least it'll show that you have some form of a thought.
Did you ever see the clip that was taken out that you didn't see about George Floyd? Did you see that, where he was already in the car telling people he couldn't breathe?
Yes.
And you see him popping a fentanyl? Did you see that?
Are you justifying Derek Chauvin being on George Floyd's back for 9 days?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what the fuck is she talking about? What is she talking about? That shit don't even mean anything. Also, I seen the video she's talking about. I didn't even see him. I didn't see that. I didn't see him pop no fucking fent in the middle of the goddamn. He's handcuffed. How the fuck did he pop fent with his hands behind his back? How do you do that? He was in the fucking. I saw what she's talking about, but I don't remember that.
No, actually, from this,
Can you answer that question?
Let me
Can you
finish.
answer that question?
Now, yeah.
Answer that.
So I don't care
I'm
if he
trying
was
to,
riding
but
a
you gotta let me
unicorn on Mars
finish. You gotta
before.
let me finish.
I don't care.
From this view, it looks like his knee is on his neck. Well, they had the view from this angle, and it was actually on the shoulder blade. So
this doesn't fucking mean anything. Shut the fuck up. Oh my
this is what happened
god.
in the court, and
The fuck is this dumbass talking? Literally no one is saying any of this shit. And she's like, well, no, guys, but you didn't see it from this angle. It actually looks like if you really can screw the angle, if you get this this fucking Steven Spielberg ass angle from this side, from this one person, nigga, I don't give a fuck. Okay, let's not talk about George Floyd. Renee Good.
this is somebody.
Should his foot have been on the shoulder blade for 9 minutes?
It was on the shoulder blade, but the thing was.
Is the shoulder blade not going across the chest, which can compress the chest so where he can't breathe? What, you think he just has his knee in a fucking 90-degree angle like this on his shoulder? No, it's probably like this on his shoulder, which means the rest of his leg is on his chest and back, or is on his back, which is where, you know, obviously his chest is at, across, which constricted his breathing. So, like, what? This is a dumb nonsense point. This has been nonsense the entire way through.
It was.
He was struggling in the car. He was already in the car at a point, talking about not being able to breathe. Actually, the way he died was not because of that. He died because he popped fentanyl. That was a lie. Because
dude, holy shit! Nobody gives a fuck, dog. Nobody cares. It was assisted. Yeah, if you want to say he was high, which they did say, the coroner was like, yeah, he was high on fent when he died. Cool. He said, I can't breathe. That means let me stop restraining the guy and sit him upright to where he can breathe. And guess what? That would have solved it. He probably wouldn't have died. If you want to say he would have overdosed, that's a different story. That's a completely different story. But you restricted a man's movements and possibly even his breathing when you laid him on his chest and then put pressure upon his chest. So you can't then say, well, it was actually on his shoulder blade, so it doesn't actually count. That's not how that works. You did not apply any sort of assisted help to someone who couldn't breathe, and they died within your, I guess you could say, care, or they died within your custody, or whatever the fuck you want to say. They died when you were, and that makes you responsible because you could have avoided that. You could have prevented that. Their hands were literally tied behind their back. They weren't posing a real threat. You're the one who decided to keep pressure on his neck and back and chest when he said, I can't breathe, which is dumb. The minute someone says, I can't breathe, I would have sat him upright so that he can breathe. If he wants to flip out and try to run away, cool, we can stop him again. But if he just needs to breathe, then he needs to breathe. Like, that's why this doesn't make any sense. Even if you want to say he didn't put pressure on his neck and choke him, that doesn't mean anything, right?
they want to pit us together. This is a divide.
No, that's not made to fucking pit you together. You think George Floyd is the only black person who died to the fucking police? What are you saying?
And conquer tactic. The media wants to use this. Why don't they ever talk about all these children being butchered in Chicago from gangs? Why aren't they on the cover of the...
Oh, why don't they talk about black people dying more? Why don't they talk about black people shooting and killing each other more? They're trying to divide us, me and you. Why don't they talk about black people dying more? Golly. Don't you just hate it when the media's not talking about black children dying?
Magazines, because it doesn't fit the narrative.
What is the narrative? And how can you say that when black crime is reported on more than anything else?
They want us to be divided. And they do this. They pit people.
How does talking about dead children fucking unite you? You're just going to turn around and say, look at the violence, look at the gang violence. This is just how they are. This is this culture. This is who they are. You can't stop it. You're just going to do that racist shit. So what the fuck are you talking about? You're not even making sense to your own dumbass argument.
People against each other, whites against blacks,
And the narrative
gays
you're talking about
against
George Floyd, who was murdered, is not helping.
Jews against Zionists, against
what the fuck is she on about?
The allowing this, and then
We've really been enjoying producing these meaningful conversations.
We're just gonna skip. I don't know what the fuck she on.
Amendment.
Oy.
Protect.
Hate speech should be protected under the First Amendment. Should be protected? No.
Under the First Amendment.
I ain't with that. I ain't gonna lie.
Hate speech. What does that describe? I guess I'm the oldest one here. Grew up in the 60s in the South, in Arkansas. Sometimes you don't realize racism is a thing until you leave that thing. Been in LA 25 years, and you would think because of all the different races of people that are here, you would think that we would come together, not because of the color of our skin. I'm a registered nurse, 33 years. I've been called 1,000 times by clients at the beginning of the shift, but by the end of the shift, they want to apologize, and I'm still a person. So me hating, should that be an okay thing? The hate starts in our mind, then we speak it, then we act on it. Is that okay? And
I'll reach you in the middle. I think it should be, I guess, protected, but it should not. It's not free of consequence, obviously. So if somebody punches, you can say the N-word, but if you get blocked off of platforms, if you lose your job, or if you get the shit kicked out of you, you just gotta accept that.
And from slavery, 400
I don't really care about this
years,
issue. That's my opinion. I don't really care for it.
let me
Do you ever
finish
think
up.
your life would be chiller though if like maybe you weren't reading the transcripts and you were just
No, because it's not about that. I care about truth.
Can agree with points. So what we'll do is conflate like just one big issue where the left did this. The left is not us. You take the sound bites, because if you say don't take the sound bites, you're taking that. And
No, I'm not. I'm looking at the evidence. I look at.
See, I'm not
things-
Antifa, though.
I read the transcripts, and it's completely different from what the mainstream media is putting out there.
But would you
like,
do
even
you
like
ever think your
Breonna
life,
Taylor? Let me
do you ever
finish
think
up.
your life would be chiller though if like maybe you weren't reading the transcripts and you were just
No, because it's not about that. I care about truth. I care about Jesus, and Jesus is about truth.
I don't need to read that shit.
I care about exposing the truth. Okay, so with
What is
Breonna
the
Taylor.
truth? That's the thing. When we say the truth, what the fuck is the truth to you? You don't know what the fucking truth is. You don't know what any of this is. So you saying I want to expose the truth is dumb.
You're
not
I was
doing
asked
shit.
what I thought about her, and I said, Breonna Taylor was a thug, and so was her boyfriend. Let me finish. I know.
You mean she was a thug when the police had unauthorized permission to go inside her house and shoot her and her husband when they literally had no reason to even go inside the house in the first place? When they didn't have authorization, they didn't have a warrant, they didn't have shit. They just went inside and they killed her.
That you're getting emotional, but let me finish what I have to say.
Because you're using harsh language like thug? What the fuck are we talking about?
And I said,
I'll be honest, I don't know 100% of this case. I know what they did, and I know what went down.
energy go, the energy flows. And so don't do it. Now, what you heard in the media is completely different from the actual story. There was a knock warrant, not a no-knock warrant. They lied and said no-knock warrant. There was a knock warrant. The cops came in. She had a gun like this, and they shot her because she had a gun pointing at the cops. We never heard any of that. We heard lies because they want to pit us against each other. Again, this is why you got to look at the transcripts.
Okay, the original prompts also, I mean,
That's what we're saying. Like, what the fuck is this dumbass talking about? Like, dog, nobody said shit about police brutality and any of that, and she just keeps bringing it back to some other shit. The fuck are you talking about? The prompt? I mean, the transcripts? I read the transcripts. Bitch, we're not talking about fucking any of that. It's not the prompt.
Oh God, I'm like, my mind is jumbled because, okay, quickly on Breonna Taylor, I don't even know how we got here, but just quickly on that, if someone, I'm not like a gun-toting whatever. I don't want them around. I don't like looking at them. They make me uncomfortable. But if traditionally conservatives are fighting for the right to bear arms and someone is breaking down your door and coming into your apartment and they have a gun to protect themselves because they don't know who's coming in. Unidentified, then, I mean, it makes sense. They were not even supposed to be there.
Yeah, but that bitch at you. What you mean?
0%.
She had a warrant.
I feel like because hate speech is so subjective, it's just...
That doesn't mean break down my fucking door. Especially if you just said they had a no enter, they didn't have a entry, whatever the fuck it's called. They knocked on the door. That's not how that went. They broke this bitch down.
It's determined by whoever has the most power, and unfortunately who has the most power is whoever has the most money, and right now that's Trump and his little cronies, and so I don't really want anybody to determine what someone can say or can't say, but what you were saying earlier is you still may have to suffer those consequences, because yeah, like what we're talking about with chemical with Jimmy Kimmel, I think it's insane that he was taken off the air, but like I still think that I Fox can stay on and say their stuff, you know, like I don't agree with a lot of it or whatever, but like they're allowed to have that platform. I think Kimmel should have his platform.
I don't give a fuck. Like, listen, if you still listen to Fox News, I just know you're a fucking idiot. They literally got sold. They got sued so much that they literally had to put their category as entertainment because they're like the Onion. I need you to understand, if you listen to Fox News, you're basically listening to the fucking Onion. Dead ass. That's how much misinformation Fox News spreads. They've been sued so many times, they literally had to call themselves an entertainment channel and not news. That is how you know you're listening to the wrong people, and it's fucking blatant. They've been sued countless fucking times due to misinformation campaigns and shit like that. So listen, do what you want to do.
And the government should not be policing that.
Are you okay with them lying and lying and lying and lying and over again? Are you okay with the media lying to us?
What are you talking about?
Do you know what Operation Mockingbird Media is?
No.
Our government.
Oh my fucking god! Why does she keep bringing shit back to goddamn conspiracy theories, bro? What the fuck wrong with her? Also, isn't Operation Mockingbird a different? I can't remember what the classification was, but it was it's something. I don't think it was this. I could be wrong.
Government is our media.
Isn't it MK Ultra or some shit?
Yeah.
I know.
It's literally propaganda.
I know.
And they are lying about things. Jimmy Kimmel knew what actually happened, and he blatantly lied to the public.
I'm not going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel because I don't know what happened, but...
And I applaud you for saying that. No, I'm dead. Let me say something. I'm going to tell you why. That is so important, because if you don't have an opinion about something, if you don't know enough information, why is your voice being prevalent on an issue? How many times have we seen people say, guess what? Well, you know what? I hadn't read that part yet. Yeah. That is what frustrates me more than anything, and that comes from everyone. We are trying to have a voice when you do not deserve one on a particular platform. If I come up here and you're talking about something,
Cool, but I want to hear her thing.
Yeah, so I won't discuss that point, but I can't think, and I don't know if I
She's
misinterpreted the prompt. I don't think that hate speech is something that should be protected, as in I don't think it's something that should be enabled at all. I cannot think of a single reason why it would be productive to allow people to commit hate speech. I understand the problem in that it's difficult to define, and like that's a thing, but I don't think that should stop us. The law doesn't exist to allow us to do whatever we want, and we do look at what is productive for society, and I can't conceptualize how allowing people to perpetuate bigotry is productive in any context.
She's got a point.
And that is...
I only allow it in a sense of although I don't think it has any real productivity associated with it, I think it is important to. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's good to weed out the assholes, right? It's good to weed out the bad egg, I guess you could say, and let them expose themselves, because then you can do your thing. Now that's not the biggest or best reason. I can't give you one. I think you should just have it just for the idea of what is going to be considered hate speech, because depending on the government, like one of the women here said, if Trump has power, then you're hoed, because then if this happens under him, let's say he criminalizes hate speech. Well, hate speech is anything that goes against Trump. Hate speech is anything that goes against Israel. Hate speech is anything that goes against the Republican Party or conservatives, that goes against Nazis and white supremacists. They would have they would control hate speech. And if they control hate speech is basically will then be anything that disagrees with you, which is the fucking reality of the world, which is just factual, proven, and objective truth, will then be considered hate speech. So that is why I personally would not do that.
How we allow certain narratives to get so far that political violence can happen, that genocides can happen, that violence towards particular groups can happen, is because we don't police. It sounds woke, and it sounds, maybe because I'm Gen Z, maybe because I'm the youngest person here, whatever, that I'm totally fine with saying you can't say that, because that's what my generation does. But it sounds annoying, but no, like, we actually do need to nip it in the bud and say, yeah, no.
Yes. That is dangerous.
Yes, very good. I agree.
And the next prompt is, white
privilege is real and present. Yes.
Privilege is a
Yes.
real and present force in
yes.
America.
What are you talking about? This is dumb. Of course it is. Come on. Let's get all the hands.
Okay. I'm gonna try to be a bridge right now.
Okay.
So this is my thought, and I just want to insert real quick. I don't think Charlie was shot for political violence. I don't put it in that category. I'm a follower of Jesus. I think that he was shot for proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is my opinion. So I just want to. I think we're in a
shot for what?
Gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm a follower of Jesus. I think that he was shot for proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is my opinion. So I just want to. I think we're in a spiritual war. That's my opinion.
So you think it's like religious?
Huh?
It was like a religious violent act?
I think there are. I think we can all contend, be it George Floyd, be it Charlie Kirk, whatever. I think we can all contend that there's evil.
I agree with that. I think there's evil that are greater than anything red or blue, and I think a lot of people aren't ready to have that conversation. I think foreign affairs have a lot to do with this.
So
she's talking about Israel. Bada boom! I'm gonna take a piss.
anything else
as to
about
how
it.
you categorize what
I don't look at Charlie and go, wow, he was politically assassinated.
That's not your interpretation of
That's
it.
not my
How do you
interpretation.
interpret it?
I interpret it as that we are told, I mean, Christ was killed because of what he was saying.
Are you comparing him
the
to
Jews
Christ?
killed Christ. So he was being disruptive.
Well,
And he was basically a truth teller and was killed for telling the gospel, because ultimately I believe my foundation and my fundamental level that I'm going to derive even my beliefs from, even what I want to answer what the question was too, but I just wanted to insert that because I
But do you
didn't
have
want
an
to say that.
interpretation that's not rooted, like, people need to be religious in order to understand what you're saying? Like, do you just have like a...
Well, I think we're in a battle between good and evil. That's what I think. I've
Who's
seen
evil?
at my door.
Who is evil?
For sake of time, I have, I'm not going to sit here and tell you my life story. But yeah, but there is a lot of evil, be it George Floyd, be it Charlie's assassination, and I think that there is a unifying factor, that there is good and there's evil. Now, that obviously goes into, okay, well, what do you define as evil and what do you define as good and all the things, right? So my fundamental level of that comes from, biblically speaking, that's where I go to find my grounding and what I defined as good and evil. So I'm always going to have, if someone's not biblically living their life, we're not going to agree, because we're living by two different moral standards.
That's fucking dumb. That is a dumb fucking assertion. That is a fucking dumb assertion. In fact, let's test that right now. Do you believe slavery was okay? Do you believe that if you were to go to war with somebody, that you should take all the virgin women and children and marry them and equally split them amongst each other? If you don't, then I hate to say it, but you are not living up to what your religion says you should do. So again, you tell me, is this cool? Because if this is cool, I just want to make sure if this is cool, then, yikes. Do you like the LGBTQ? Cool, the Bible doesn't really say much against them. They just say a man shouldn't be a bottom. If you really want to delve into what a man should not lay with a man as he would with a woman, it just means he shouldn't bottom. That's it. Sorry. That's all it says. Anyway, and also, even if you want to do that, you can also go back to that it's a mistranslation from a man should not lay with a boy the way he lays with a woman. So either way, it's wrong. And yeah. You have to contend with the slavery. You have to contend with the child trafficking and pedophilia. You have to contend with all those things. You have, in fact, no, you not contend. You have to agree with all of those things if you live by your holy book. Also, this equation to Charlie Kirk to fucking Jesus Christ is insane. It's insanity. You're fucking weird and you're brainwashed.
And that's fine. I'm like, okay, that's great, but don't tell me how to live my life. And I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. So that's kind of my thing. This is what I think about white privilege, is that I do believe because of Black history in America, there is generational stuff that that the Black community has had to overcome that the white community has not. Okay, so I want to start there, and I think and I believe that there are things and roads that they're just harder. They're harder to overcome. If my parents were divorced, I am at a disadvantage now to stay married. And guess what? My parents were divorced. I got divorced. And this is, again, I'm going to go to a spiritual aspect, okay, is the sense that there is generational stuff that each one of us, like if I sat down and had coffee with each one and everybody, we could probably have a really nice chat about, hey, how did you grow up? Like, where did you grow up? What's your family dynamic like? And, I've worked in recovery groups for a long time and things like that with the crazy spectrum of people from all different backgrounds, okay? But again, I derive my foundation of that. My goal is to make heaven crowded. And I truly believe Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. And so I'm always going to come at it from that angle. Now, in saying that, there is a really real overcoming that the Black community had to do. I'm just sorry that is the reality. It's a dark piece of history in America, and from the Jim Crow laws all the way to the...
She said dark piece. She's thinking because it's black people, it's so dark. Okay.
Civil War, everything. I mean, Black Code before they came up with Jim Crow laws and all those things. That is a dark part of the black community. That is ingrained in your guys' history generationally. So there's mentalities, there's abuse, there's things that you guys probably were passed down in your guys' line that weren't passed down in my line. And so I can acknowledge that. Now, I would also come from the standpoint of that once we become Christian and once we meet Jesus, we become new in him. And
that doesn't eliminate white supremacy, dog. It's so dumb. That doesn't take away white supremacy. In fact, that literally does nothing against the idea of white supremacy.
Can give us newness, and he can break what we have been through and what we've come from. And so my stance will always be to lift people up to a place of equalness. That is my personal way that I operate in my life. I have people all over my life from all spectrums. You know, I just spoke at a gay man's house a couple months ago because I was invited there to, you know, I'm all over the spectrum. So that's why I say, you know, I'm not in a box, I guess, conservatively, because my ex-husband, his parents came illegally to this country. So my kids are half Salvadorian. So I have this I'm a kind of a mutt, like a conservative mutt, where I think a lot of things need reform. I don't like a lot of the stuff in the police department. I am all for, I think that we need to have a strong, police and all those things, but there needs to be reform. There's some really crappy cops out there. And so
I'd like to say one thing. We are sitting with the understanding that there will ever be equality. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that just purely from a race perspective. And when we talk about privilege, privilege exists amongst everyone. What tends to be more prevalent is the privilege you see that white Americans would have, if you're looking at, from the lens of someone else, and that's all we can ask, right?
Yeah,
so you look
I guess
through it,
the question was, I think currently, right now, I do not think it is. Currently, in 2025. Now, as I said, where I come from, I can acknowledge that there is a really dark history that the black culture has had to overcome that I didn't.
I also want to say that everyone has to overcome that, because that is America.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not just because
that's
I
the Democrat Party.
That
was the Democrat Party.
No, that's an
KKK,
American
Jim Crow
problem.
law, slavery was all the Democrat Party.
Okay, again, the senior citizen from the South. I went to private schools. They had the black Catholic school and they had the white Catholic school. The one tuition was one price for the black kids, one tuition was one price for the white kids. And now, 60 years later, what has changed? We still have things. I'm a registered nurse again, but I've had the worst clients with a bachelor's degree in nursing, worst clients with less pay. I had to orient, and they're Christian to me, orient and help white nurses, Hispanic nurses that didn't speak English, Filipino nurses that didn't speak English. I got paid less. So if we talk about money and white privilege, how am I not the supervisor, but I have to train you to be the supervisor?
But also, isn't it judging
privilege.
us by our skin color? If you say white privilege, you're assuming because I have lighter skin that I just had it so easy.
No, oh my God, you're dumb. Jesus fucking Christ, you're stupid as fuck. Good God, she wants to be a victim so fucking bad. You see everything she says, every talking point that has happened since this started, every time this dumbass has spoken, she's tried to play herself as the fucking victim and everything. They came at me. They took me off of my show. Twitter came down and banned me. Facebook took me off. I made multiple TikTok accounts. Everything is a fucking crime to her. That's the mark of somebody who's a fucking idiot who doesn't know anything they're talking about, bro. And they just want to be a victim. You'd like to say black people want to play victim, have victim mentality and shit? No, this is victim mentality. No one said shit about her. No one said shit about the way you live and every white person lives a better life. No one said anything to that. And what did she say? What was her response?
That's actually not what the assumption is.
Nobody said. No, not a single person.
You just
not
haven't
a
had
soul.
to go through
Not a
these
soul
hardships
said
because
that.
of your skin color.
How do you know that? I came from Iran. I came from fleeing a country.
You're white passing. You're white passing. Two guys, let me tell you like this. A black guy and a white guy could grew up in the hood together. They could have it terrible. Both went to high school though. They both say, you know what, we're going to go to college. So the white guy gets accepted into the college. The black kid doesn't get accepted into college. That's one, right? The guy goes to community college and he kind of learns his whole thing, gets his trade or whatever, right? Takes him a minute, right? The white guy comes back and he's now the manager of said place, right? Even though the black guys work there, let's say it's a 10-year difference, right? Still friends, they still talk. But the white guy goes there and he's granted the managerial position, even though the black man has been working there for like 10 plus years. I'm not making it up. That's literally what Miss Rhonda just said. She literally just said that. She's been working in this hospital as a nurse for God knows how long, but yet she's training white people and all other types of people to be higher positions when they don't know they know what they're doing, but they don't even speak English. But I'm putting you in charge of being a fucking supervisor and not the black woman who's worked there for goddamn million years. In fact, let me tell you something else. I know white people who were put in managerial positions when there were workers who were way fucking better at everything, who wouldn't move up and who wouldn't get moved up an inch. In fact, let me tell you right now, personal experience. I know this is anecdotal, but this is not just my experience. This is a lot of black people's experience. You work with a white person. You tell me who gets the promotion first. You tell me who gets the promotion first. I'll wait. Cause my white friend, my best friend Devin, you see on here, that nigga be moving up in his job, or like, if not moving up, we're talking like great pay, great everything, pretty much. He gets paid more than I do. And he's not even full time. We don't work the same job, by the way, so it's not about that. But what I'm saying is, if I worked at that job, would I have been moved up as fast as him? No. If in 9 times, I'll tell you this, 7 times out of 10, I'll even be gracious and give you 7. 7 times out of 10, if me and a white person work the same job, how often and how fast do you think they're going to move up the white person? How often and how fast do you think they're going to move up the black person? Yeah, the black person's climb is going to be like this. White person, they'll do it like this. Plateau. Next thing you know, they're head of the fucking district. Next thing you know, they're CEO or whatever. Next thing you know, they're general manager. But where's the black guy? Oh, he plateaued right at probably fucking front desk supervisor. He never got to be assistant manager to a manager to a none of that. No. We don't do that here. We do not do that here. He doesn't get that. He gets plateaued right at that first managerial position that doesn't pay more, but is basically babysitter. That's where he gets. That's where they get. You know how I know that? Because a black woman who I worked with, who worked at the company for God knows how long, has been stayed at the fucking front desk position for years. For fucking years. You easily could have made her a manager. You easily could have moved her up to manager. But you didn't do that. But she didn't want to do that. All right.
Passing.
And by the way, my half sister who lives there, she never plays the victim card, even
That's
though
great.
she's. And let me.
Oh my fucking God. Does she not know what an anecdote is? Does she not know how this works? Does she not know her personal experience is not the rule? Is not the whole? Hence why I led my personal experience story, my anecdote with, listen, and you can ask any other black person, I promise you they'll say the same thing. When most people are experiencing the same thing, it stops becoming an anecdote. What you're describing is a fucking anecdote.
There's women that
You're just
can't
saying, well, I didn't. And then you're going to use survivorship bias, if not that. You're just going to use dumbass survivorship bias where you're like, well, I did it, so why can't you? Bullshit.
do the things that we do in this country. And the thing to me, I believe it's a psyop. If you're saying someone has white privilege, what are you saying about people that have darker skin, that they're beneath you?
No.
That's called...
No, dumbass, you're the one saying that. What? White privilege, to say that you have a privilege in something does not mean you're better at something, you fucking dumbass. She's really fucking dumb. She's really fucking dumb. I need you to understand she's really fucking stupid. To say you have a privilege in something says that you are given an unfair advantage at something over other people. That does not mean you're better. There's nowhere in this world that states you're better because you have a privilege. That's not what privilege even means. You're just given a fucking advantage. And in this instance, in this case, in this use of the word, you're given an advantage that other people are not privy to, that other people don't get. That doesn't mean you're better. You're treated better. That doesn't mean you are better, you fucking moron.
To me, that's called white supremacy.
Yeah, wait,
that's called white supremacy.
If I can, because like it even goes beyond not being that deep. Like, of course, we all know black men are killed disproportionately than white men by police, and then they're murderers.
They do 60% of the crime. That's a statistic.
No, that's not true, you fucking moron.
Please let me speak.
I know,
You've
but
spoken for like 20 minutes. I've spoken for like 2. There's deep stuff like that. There is real stuff. Communities that are like still trying to get their families out of the trenches because of redlining and, like you said, different tuitions and unequal pay and stuff like that. But then there's even stuff like they just now started making Band-Aids in our skin color. Like it's even as like simple as that. Bandages were made to match your skin tone. For so long, nude was only in your skin tone. Only just now am I wearing a bra underneath this that is closer to my skin tone, but this came out in a lingerie line that came out in the last 10 years.
But that's a corporation. That's not government.
No, but
that's a corporation. You should tell the corporation we would love to have it in our skin color.
Reflective of the larger society.
It feels like irrelevant and dumb that.
I get what she's saying. It's a large scale, but she's using small scale to tell you just how deep it goes. Is that it looks stupid and this sounds dumb and insignificant, like a Band-Aid or a bra color, right? That sounds dumb and insignificant. It is, unless you think about, well, it goes that deep, meaning there is way larger stuff, but it's such a vast an overreaching thing that it even hits these small things that no one even thinks about nor cares about. That's what she's saying.
I'm like saying this now by itself, but just along with like bandages, but there's also like makeup lines. It was really hard. My mom, when she was learning how to contour her face, we had to use black eyeshadow because there was nothing in her skin tone at all, like her foundation. And then one time I ordered makeup online in my skin tone and they gave me a sample and it was like the lightest sample they had. It's like they weren't even considering that maybe the person who was ordering this wasn't white. And then if you go on set somewhere, the black hairstylist and black makeup artists are always expected to be able to handle everybody. They do everybody's hair, they do everybody's makeup, but white hairstylists have done some crazy shit to my hair, crazy shit, and said things like, oh, I've never worked with this kind of texture before, even though they're the professional hired to be on set that day. We're expected to do it all.
I will say, I think there's like a privilege, I know that sounds crazy, to being, having to do more than us and having gone through so much. I think that we've heard a lot about spirituality, but I feel like because you guys have gone through so much. There's like an enlightenment to you. I always feel such a drawl and just so seen in a way that I don't feel as much with white people, I would say. So, I mean, I will just say that I feel like you guys are magnets, and I hope that your voice gets heard more, because I think that there has been a lot of trauma of just invisibility and your way of rising through it and still being survivors and stuff. I don't know, I've always felt like it's been super special.
Where'd the hippie come from? What's going on? How are you conservative? she's so chill and like hippie like how is she conservative?
And I'm so.
In what way is she conservative?
Thankful for the relationships that I've had.
Shit, not the bridge being built.
Right?
I will never forget. Let me just say, when I was younger, I will never forget looking over as a young kid and seeing a black man get out of a Mercedes, and something I was like, that's success. And there was just always that vision. And I know it doesn't have to be like a superficial symbol, but there was just something implanted in me as a young kid. And I had a buzzed head when I was young, and I felt like I think I've allowed myself to see.
Why are you
that,
conservative?
Like,
why are you on this side?
Like, I haven't seen myself a lot on in the media, and I've heard that be a complaint of a lot of other people of not feeling that represented. So I think kind of feeling othered a lot in my own world in just a small way had made me feel like a kinship. And so I think that while there's privilege to being white, I feel like there's another privilege that doesn't get spoken about of actually having to suffer, because those are the people that really knows how to like have resilience and rise up and actually listen and just thrive. So
I know that we were just celebrating the bridge you made, and I don't want to tear it down, but I think I had a different response seemingly than the rest of the room to that. I know that you mean well by that, and I can see that you're very genuine. I have a really hard time sitting with the idea that the significant trauma that the Black community has experienced in this country has made us enlightened, and that there's like this beautiful spiritual quality that it's given us, because I think it feels, and maybe I'm just speaking to the way that's landed for myself, like a huge bypassing of how genuinely traumatic that is to be like.
Yeah, she makes a good point, because it's like if you just say, well, you guys have been through that all this horrific trauma, they used to throw, that game where they dunk you in the pool? Yeah, that used to be about a black kid who would have his face through the hole, and you would throw the baseballs as hard as you can at a black kid's face. That's the real, that's where that game actually comes from, and then dunk him in the fucking pool, right? Just crazy to think about, but that was the thing. On top of that, a million of other atrocities and sick, horrific things that have happened to Black people over the years. I don't think kind of romanticizing that trauma and horror through, well, you guys just carry this amazing aura about you now. It's like, babes, that's fucking trauma. That's trauma. That's carrying the weight of an entire country hating you for existing. That's what that is. And that's not something you want. That's not something you want to even be attached to. That's not something you want to be close to. And what you're seeing is us persevering. You're seeing literally a race of people live in survival mode 24/7. Even if they're not aware of it. Like, I wasn't aware of it for a long time. I was like, in fact, I was most like this girl right here, where it is you grow up around white people or whatever, and you kind of grow this, like, even if they're not racist, there are racist things that have happened, but even if they are not racist, you grow up learning to kind of downplay a lot of your own struggles, because you grow up around people who've never had those same struggles in their fucking life, who couldn't even tell you the first thing about those struggles. So if you're learning from them about yourself, guess what? You're not going to know shit about yourself. And that doesn't mean that they're racist, they're awful. It has nothing to do with that. It's just they're speaking of an experience that they will never have, and they've never researched or looked into. They just, you understand? That's where a lot of the bigoted ideology even comes from in the first place. But outside of that, yeah, it's dumb to. I'm not going to say it's dumb. I always use harsh language. It's not dumb. It's just a little naive and a little insensitive to try to say that our struggle, our trauma, our response to such a thing, our survival mindset, it looks spiritual or like trying to give it a nice connotation when in reality it's very tragic, it's very awful, it's very dehumanizing. Yeah.
Well, look at you, like you're radiant now.
You know, it's like almost like saying, well, if it wasn't for all this horrible torture, raping, pillaging, murder, and all this other awful shit, you wouldn't look as good as you do now. And this is where strong black women trope comes in. Even strong just women trope in general, but strong black women trope. This is where this comes in, where it's like you shouldn't look at black women's trauma as a sort of like strength indicator or as a sort of like they can handle it, or you kind of like brush their pain aside and go, oh, you can handle it, you're a black woman, you know struggle, you know this, you know how this works, you know. And it's undermines the pain, the trauma, the I guess the trauma they went through, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that like the way that you've been through something, whereas like we're over here and we can, who knows how much we've even been through.
Yeah, and like I'm not.
But you've also rolled your eyes at so many people that have been speaking, so I don't know if that's your.
I mean, a lot of really insane things have been said.
I don't know if that's your immediate response is just to roll your eyes. Might not have the best like language with it, but I know that like on a soul level, like I feel I have a lot of awe and respect.
And I appreciate that a lot.
Take it where you can get it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All I'm saying is this idea that somehow having endured what the black community has endured in this country and coming out the other end, barely surviving, there are people right now who are not surviving, that's somehow a privilege is ludicrous. And like, maybe what you said completely landed wrong with me, but that's how I took all of that, and that's all.
There is no historical educational context to this conversation, although I appreciate everything every single person has attributed. I genuinely do care about the topic. This is systematic, which means you as individual people may totally not be doing anything at all to perpetuate this. It just is. I have certain privileges. Everybody here has certain privileges. This is systematic. Black women are 4 times more likely to die with anything related to do with maternity.
Childbirth.
You know what I mean? Like, this is systemic.
They're not given the correct amount of anesthesia and shit like that. And you know, this is science that has been debunked a million times, but only very recently has it even hit the medical field about so many inaccurate studies that were done on black women's pain tolerance and saying things like they have less pain tolerance, so you don't have to give them as much medical treatment or care when they give birth, which leads to a very rapidly high mortality rate when it comes to pregnancy, because you're not giving them the correct amount of what is it called? Arcane? I can't remember the name. But you're not giving them enough. And they died because it's too much. It's too much. It's fucking childbirth, dog. Like, what are we talking about? And this comes from a long history of black women being used, experimented on when it came to specifically childbirth, and how they would take women slaves and rape them and impregnate them and force them to go into labor for like when they go into labor to not provide them any sense of painkillers or anything like that, and they would just have to go through it. And that killed a lot of women, you know, practicing C-sections, practicing all types of shit on women, on black women. You know, and that history, for some fucking reason, even though it was debunked, stayed prevalent in a lot of medical textbooks for a lot of years, which leads to a lot of maternal deaths among black women.
Too, which I really appreciate you bringing up, and I'm going to connect it, which I really appreciate you bringing up.
Which part?
About, I'm going to tell you earlier when you said the stuff about like Reconstruction and Black codes and Jim Crow, right? Like you were saying all those things. A lot of that stuff, my sister is also a nurse. So like, let's say medical documentation for an example. Like this is a little bit of an example, right? It'll say like, for white patients, sometimes more often than not by studies in the field, it'll say this patient, expressed that they had, pain, and they were very agitated because they were in so much pain. For a Black patient, it'll say more often than not, this person was aggressive or like med seeking. We need to, you know what I mean? It's like there's always a suspicion because that comes from another lineage. So just as there was so much trauma passed on with us, which thank you for acknowledging, it's true, there was a lot of other stuff passed on to a lot of other people, and that's why we have people marching in the streets chanting that same rhetoric in 2025. And so I think there's this misconception that like if we acknowledge white privilege exists, I went viral for saying that when I was on another platform and they asked me 5 years ago, do white people experience racism? And I said no, because in context, which we don't know and we're not taught, so I'm not mad at anybody here, because as a teacher I realize the fundamental thing is that we don't know our own history as Americans, race aside. And maybe if we did, we could actually get past race and deal with the issues that are affecting all of us, like classism and foreign entities. And to your point, people at the top controlling these narratives and all this other stuff. But I'm going to stop because I could go on forever. But as a teacher and just as a human being, the fact that there's no systemic fundamental basis to anything that we're saying when we talk about the nuance of white privilege, because it was built into systems. So the whole idea of race was a construct. There's only one race, that's the human race.
Correct.
There are Black people that will hear that and get so pissed off at me for saying that. But that is the truth.
That's what we got to get back to.
Racism is not about Blackness. Racism is about whiteness. Because when slavery happened, there were Native Indians, there were poor whites, and there were slaves. And they were all not too far from the same hardships. So people that were wealthy, just like now, were like, we got to find a way to separate these people. So they told poor white people, well, you know what, you might be poor, but at least you're not Black. And I'm using that language intentionally. So all of that was put into policies to make to what we see today.
She's not wrong.
So it's just.
But it was. You know what? What's that movie called? There Will Be Blood. That goes over this period of time where it was the Irish, Italian, Jews, and Black people and Black African Americans, who were kind of all lumped together in this thing of like you're less than white people bullshit society. But then they bought out the Irish people because they gave them rights, and they said, well, all you got to do is just kind of go against the rest of the people. They did that for Irish and Italian. That's why Italian is not considered white, even though they're really not white. They get called that because back then, if you were Italian in America, you were called all types of names that I can't repeat. You were called, you were considered not white. You were considered less than, right? What they say, you were the, I can't remember, but something adjacent to a racial slur for Black people. And yeah. And that's why a lot of Italians are just blatantly, like New Jersey Italians are fucking racist towards Black people, is also just that right there. It is having to assimilate into white culture and whiteness to be protected under their laws. And that just bore racism towards Black people. And the only people who genuinely stood with Black people during these times were Jews. Now, I have no problem with Jews. I have problems with Zionists, but that's for a different story. Y'all aren't ready for those talks yet.
So, I understand what you're saying about the Band-Aids in the hair, and it's real. Shout out to Fenty. But
it's a Fenty bra.
I love it. I love it.
But couldn't it be also because of the population rather than the color of your skin? Could it be like, oh, we're learning how to do hair?
Yeah, but she's sharing
let me
her
finish.
experience.
Let me finish what I'm
sharing.
Yeah, let me finish what I'm
history.
saying. Can I finish my thought, please? So we're looking at the population. The Black community is 13.
You know what I love about this is that there's a side thing happening, and it is white conservative women realizing how fucking dumb they look when they're standing next to idiots like this. Look at her face, and then look at hers. She is not fucking with anything this dumb bitch is saying. That's what you gotta take note of. This is what you gotta take note of. Everyone on the conservative side is looking at her like, you are fucking annoying and you're making us look like a bunch of racist, fucking awful human beings. You dumb C. Like, you're fucking ruining it for, like, you're ruining this thing for me. I'm realizing how dumb I look. I'm realizing how dumb I look from watching you.
So when people are learning to do hair, maybe it has nothing to do with just because you're black. It has to do with people are learning how to do the majority of the population's
That's always
hair.
been the excuse.
That's true, but
I'm just saying that it could be, this is what I'm saying, but we see everything in color. And when I've gone to board meetings, this is what bothers me. I go to a school board meeting and they talk about white privilege and this. So you're telling my child who's never been a part of, Jim Crow law, racism, any of this, that she's an oppressor and that black kids are oppressed. I believe both of them are evil, and I'll tell you why. Number one, how do you keep a person down? You tell them they're a victim, and there's no way of rising up.
With that,
and I think that's a psyop.
Oh my god, she's not gonna stop with the dumb fucking, so this is like a dumb conservative talking point of just saying it's not that deep. Where you just kind of like, you keep saying everything, like she's saying, everything is a psyop, everything is made to keep us against each other. But you're the one who's propagating and props up white supremacy and racist ideas. You voted for Trump. You can't say that everything that these people are saying when it comes to white supremacy, when it comes to white privilege and all these things aren't real and it's just a psyop to make us fight each other when you've been brainwashed by Fox News and voted for fucking Donald Trump and you fucking been brainwashed by fucking Charlie Kirk. Like, you can't keep saying it's a psyop and then fall for the fucking psyop.
I think that's
white
psychological
never
warfare.
stop my black excellence.
Yeah, let me finish.
So
I think that's a psychological warfare against the black kids, and I think it's also a psychological warfare against white kids because they're.
Can you even remotely demonstrate how that is?
They have to feel shame and guilt of something that they've never been a part of.
This woman's face right here. This is what we're saying. Again, this is another racist talking point where they say, oh, well, why should we feel bad for stuff that we didn't do because you're voting in people that are going to continue or going to bring back these same things? Yeah. If you voted for Trump, everything you say is null and void. I need you to understand, everything you say, if we didn't do that, why do we got to feel guilty for shit we didn't do? All that shit is null and void because you voted in somebody who would very easily and welcomingly bring all that back. And is right now doing it, as you've seen, with the voting restrictions.
And it's a divide. Now they're pitting white kids against black kids. That's wrong because, again, as a Christian...
Teaching you history is not pitting you against... Now, if your history makes you look like a fucking psycho, that's just you. You gotta eat that. You gotta deal with that. I don't know what you want me to say. You gotta deal with that. Is it weird they're matching... Hold on, what the fuck? Is it weird they're matching clothes? Am I tripping? Look, we have two women in skirt, and we have these two women in skirts. And then we have a woman in pants. Yeah, a woman in pants. Or no, is that a dress? I can't remember. I don't know. This might be the dress, and then this one is the dress. Which Rhonda and this lady are kind of like dressed similarly too, which is funny. Then you have this lady in a dress with pantsuits, and that's kind of what Rhonda is wearing a little bit. And then what she's wearing is the full dress, and that's kind of like what she's wearing a bit. But it looks more like hers. I don't know. Anyway, I just noticed that.
We believe there is no such thing as race. We believe we are all in the image of God. That's why it upsets me, because it is divisive.
But you see,
you're also using religion as like your fucking. Not everyone's religious, so y'all keep going back to this dumbass religious standpoint means nothing to people who just aren't religious. You feel me? Like it's just meaningless. That's such a meaningless thing.
yeah, I'm the one that injected that, so I believe that as history, because historically that's what happened. But to say racism was not a construct that came and was implemented and imposed to validate segregation, Jim Crow.
Oh, I think it's awful.
The Reconstruction.
Yeah, I'm totally against the racist Democrats.
I'd like to jump into it.
I would love to hear from you.
Okay, so first of all, this was a tough question for me to answer. I ended up answering no, white privilege is not an issue right now, but that was hard because certainly through the vast majority of American history, white privilege has definitely been an issue, and worse than white privilege. You know, slavery and Jim Crow was, I think, and what happened to the Cherokees, the Native, was the darkest chapter of our country's history. And my grandparents are from Arkansas, and my grandma participated in a civil rights movement, and I 100% know that that happened. And I'm so sorry that that's still happening to you. That's so completely wrong. One of the things I just wanted to bring up is because my dad's an immigrant. So my dad is Greek from Istanbul, Turkey. So he went through the same thing where both sides of his family had their property taken away by the Turks. They were beaten up on the way to school. They did have a Greek school, but it was controlled by the Turkish military, and they were forcibly drafted. My brother-in-law is Greek from Cyprus. So his mother had, the Turks came in during that war and took.
I don't think they understand what white privilege is.
With that, we're capable of doing the same things you're capable of doing. I do think that's true, but being in a position where I can even think. It's not about ability or capabilities. It's about opportunity. If you're not given a chance to prove that you can do it, then no one gives a fuck if you can do it or not. If I'm not ever given the chance to prove that I can really do this science shit, then no one cares that I know how to do the science shit, right? We are not given the opportunities half the time. We're not given half the opportunities as white people. So white people are obviously going to get those things. They're obviously going to get a lot of the first calls. They're going to get callbacks. What was it? Motherfucking. Oh my God! It was. I can't remember the number. But it was like these people tried to do. They did call, like, how many people got callbacks, white names versus black names. White names got it over 50% more than black people. They got callbacks. And when in a time crunch, that number was even further inflated. So, not the same thing. Reflect on what other people are doing and know that I have that access to it is within itself a privilege. I grew up, I went to one of the best school districts in California. I took college readiness courses like very young. I was very much prepped for this life where I knew I was going to be able to go to a university. I knew I was going to be able to get a good job. I knew I was going to have all of these life prospects that a lot of people that are in predominantly black areas where they don't have access to those things, where the schools are not being funded well, don't have those opportunities. And so much of that was because I had immense proximity to white people. I only knew white people for the vast majority of my life because those are the communities that I was in, and that's what we give to white people. So I can even only think that I can do the things that you can do, like go to college, like buy a house, like do all these things, because of a proximity to whiteness that I had that a lot of black people obviously don't have, and that shouldn't need to be the case in order for us to have those privileges.
And the next prompt is, I do not trust law enforcement to treat all people fairly.
I agree.
Well, I was arrested. I went to a parents' rights rally and I put no. Okay. And I was arrested for exercising my First Amendment rights.
Okay. You were detained, right? Okay. That's not what that. Oh my God. Yeah, we're done. I know I'm gonna keep going. This is 2 hours. I'm just gonna cut it here. God damn it.